Kang's preemptive punch without any resistance. Even though he got hit with a surprise attack from behind, something that could have easily knocked him out, Mu quickly realized it was just a light punch, nothing like the heavy blows he was used to as a first strike. He couldn't help but wonder if Kang just wanted to test his reflexes, or if the punch was meant as some kind of warning. Either way, Mu didn't care. All he needed was confirmation to start the fight, and now he had it. As usual, Mu wasn't exactly dissatisfied about being in another fight, completely clueless that this opponent wasn't going to be as easy as the others. Kang, however, didn't rush to begin the fight officially. He hesitated, surprised by the fact that Mu wasn't running around beating people up for fun like he'd been told. Kang had no idea it was all a lie made up by Hyung to impress him. Mu, on the other hand, had no interest in explaining himself or clearing up the misunderstanding. He casually ignored Kang's questions and told him to stop wasting time with small talk and do something already. That, of course, hit a nerve with Kang and only made him believe Hyung's story even more, further convincing him that Mu really was as crazy as he'd heard. Kang did exactly what Mu asked for. He dashed forward and started trying to beat him up without wasting any time. Mu, however, stayed on guard and prepared to defend himself, like he was a pro boxer or something. Kang didn't hold back, throwing punch after punch, but surprisingly, Mu dodged every single one of them. With each dodge, Mu's confidence grew bit by bit. Seeing this, Kang quickly realized that his opponent wasn't just all talk like other bullies. He actually knew a thing or two about fighting. So, Kang decided to step it up a notch and use one of his boxing tricks. He threw a light right punch to block Mu's vision, planning to catch him off guard and land a heavy strike using the opening. But to Kang's surprise, Mu had already anticipated the move and blocked it too. For Kang, though, this was just a warm-up. It felt like he'd found the perfect punching bag to practice on. He started throwing punches again, but this time, Mu could clearly feel the difference in power compared to the earlier strikes. As expected from a champion boxer, Kang used his skills and experience to keep the pressure on, refusing to give Mu even a moment to catch his breath. Punch after punch came at him, relentless and powerful. On the other hand, Mu was completely cornered and couldn't do much. Kang was relentlessly targeting Mu's weak spots, making it almost impossible for him to focus on the fight. Things got even worse when Kang found an opening and landed a bone-crushing punch to Mu's side. The pain hit him instantly. It was like getting kicked in the balls twice in a row. Kang backed off for a moment, letting Mu deal with the sharp pain in his side, but not without making a point. He coldly mentioned that he was deliberately going after Mu's weak and injured spots because, in his judgment, unworthy people didn't deserve any mercy. But instead of being scared, impressed, or even angry, Mu, still struggling with his pain, started laughing. That laugh threw Kang off for a moment, but then it got under his skin. He couldn't believe Mu's reaction and it made him furious, pushing him to become even more ruthless than before. Meanwhile, Mu had already figured out the massive gap between Kang's strength and his own. It was painfully clear. This guy was on a completely different level than him with Lee's body. Mu knew he couldn't beat Kang in raw power, but as someone obsessed with fighting, giving up wasn't an option. Admitting defeat wasn't in his nature. Facing a stronger opponent who didn't fight fair, Mu realized he'd have to play by the same rules. He just needed to focus, stay sharp, and wait for the right opening. As someone with thousands of years of battle experience, he quickly recalled one of his fights that felt eerily similar to his current situation. It was one of those rare, 1 in 1,000 battles where Mu was nearly overpowered. Even in those painful moments, he never regretted fighting. He always felt a strange satisfaction from the thrill of it. But back then, it wasn't just about enjoying the fight or even the pain. Mu wanted to win, no matter what. So, he forced himself to calm down, shutting off all his emotions. For a brief moment, the creepy grin disappeared from his bruised, ugly face as he started to carefully analyze his opponent's movements. When another punch was about to come straight for his face, Mu made a move. Using his dirty, torn cloak, he distracted his opponent just enough to create an opening for himself. The more Mu thought and used his tiny, bird-sized brain, the smarter and more dangerous he became. Back then, he managed to capitalize on that opening and landed several direct hits on the giant monster he was fighting. But to his disappointment, his attacks didn't seem to have much of an effect. That thing was on a whole different level than him. Despite knowing he was outmatched, Mu didn't stop. He kept using his small brain to find openings while keeping his emotions in check, refusing to give in or give up. Mu was defeated that day and somehow managed to survive. But even in those agonizing moments, he couldn't help but enjoy the thrill of slipping through it. The situation now wasn't much different, so Mu decided to use the same strategy, shutting down his emotions and using his brain to try and win. If that didn't work, well, then he could at least enjoy getting beaten up. His first move was to shut off his emotions and put on a sullen expression. But since he had no clue how Lee's face would look after suppressing his feelings, he just forced himself to improvise for the time being. His new expression, combined with his already ugly face, irritated Kang more than ever. It pushed Kang to the peak of his anger, as he thought Mu was mocking him on purpose. This time, Kang charged at him, determined to finish it once and for all with his raw power. Mu, however, acted like he was just fooling around, pretending to be completely unaware of what was coming his way. As Kang kept moving forward, throwing punches wildly, Mu stepped back, dodging the attacks as best as he could. It didn't take long before his back hit a tree, making him realize he needed to switch tactics. Suddenly, an idea popped into his head. He dug his foot into the ground and, with a quick motion, kicked dirt up as fast as he could. Some of it managed to hit Kang's face, but since Kang was wearing protective glasses and quickly shielded his face with his hands, it didn't do much damage. Instead, it only confirmed Kang's suspicion that Mu was a criminal who deserved a beating. All of a sudden, Mu lowered his head, causing Kang to hesitate for a moment. But it was all an act. Mu smirked and taunted him, asking if he'd stopped attacking because he was scared. The jab hit its mark, and Kang's temper skyrocketed, giving him all the motivation he needed to keep going. Without hesitation, Kang launched another attack. However, Mu, with his goofy-looking face, was surprisingly ready this time and dodged the punch with ease. But Kang wasn't about to let him off the hook so easily. With a sudden move, Kang appeared behind Mu, trying to attack from his blind spot, but once again, Mu managed to dodge it. This time, though, Kang's fist grazed Mu's chin, causing a little damage. But it wasn't something Mu even cared about, because he was convinced his plan was working. Kang couldn't focus like before. It didn't take long for Mu to notice one of the biggest differences between Kang and the other two opponents he had fought earlier. Kang's fighting style was far more aggressive, unlike their defensive approach. In Mu's opinion, except skill and ability, the ground was the key reason for this difference. That also explained the real purpose behind throwing dirt earlier, not to actually hit Kang's protected face, but to scatter dirt and small rocks on the ground, creating countless obstacles that made it harder for Kang to move freely. Kang's aggressive fighting style, fueled by Mu's mocking behavior, made his moves predictable and easier to block with minimal effort. Everything was falling into place according to Mu's plan. After struggling to keep up and getting beaten earlier, Mu was now managing to dodge Kang's attacks again. But dodging wasn't his ultimate goal. He was trying to force Kang to move around recklessly, increasing the chances of him stepping on the scattered dirt and small rocks, eventually losing his balance. Soon, Mu got exactly what he was waiting for. Kang stepped on a small rock, lost his focus, and gave Mu the perfect opening. Wasting no time, Mu jumped into action, knowing he couldn't afford to miss this chance to turn the fight in his favor. He aimed for a vital spot, but mid-air, he realized his arm wasn't responding, probably from all the strikes he had blocked earlier. Still, he didn't let that stop him and used his elbow instead, landing a heavy blow. For a moment, Mu wondered why his arm had suddenly stopped working and forced him to use his elbow, but it didn't matter much. The elbow strike turned out to be way stronger than any punch he could have thrown. Kang's glasses shattered, and he was left stunned, completely caught off guard. Naturally, Mu couldn't resist using this moment to get under Kang's skin again. He started mocking him, throwing insults and making fun of how easily he'd been hit. But then something went wrong. Mu was so caught up in planning his next move and taunting Kang that he failed to notice what was happening in the moment. While Mu was busy mocking him, Kang had used his weapon and crushed Mu's leg. It didn't take long for Mu to feel the unbearable pain. He dropped to his knees, stunned, as if he couldn't believe what had just happened. Kang, now standing tall, rested his weapon on his shoulder, smirking. It was his turn to mock Mu. "What's the matter? Want to laugh and mess around now? Or is this not so funny anymore?" Kang had had enough of Mu. No one had ever annoyed him this much. So much so that he decided to break Mu's jaw, making sure he would never laugh again. Mu was still on his knees, unable to move even an inch to dodge or defend himself. Just before the blow landed, Mu realized something. He had lost. Mu closed his eyes, bracing himself for the hit, while his thoughts drifted. He wondered if, after nearly 4,000 years, he was finally going to taste failure again, and Kang was ready to remind him what that bitter moment felt like. But just a split second before Kang's strike could crush Mu's head, something, a piece of rock maybe, came flying out of nowhere and hit Kang directly in the face. The impact was so sudden that it made Kang stumble, and the object disappeared, rolling into the trees in an instant. Whatever it was, it stopped Kang's attack and saved Mu. Now distracted, Kang quickly looked around, trying to figure out who had thrown it. Things got even more complicated when he heard a faint, weak voice calling out, "Master," and getting closer. Kang's instincts kicked in. As someone who took pride in hunting bullies from the shadows, he couldn't risk being seen. Without wasting any time, Kang grabbed his sweatshirt, threw it on, pulling the hood over his head, and dashed away before anyone could appear and see his face. As soon as Kang disappeared, a small creature that looked like a monster appeared from behind and, with a trembling voice, called out, "Master!" Mu turned his gaze to see who was calling him, and to his surprise, it was a small, lizard-like creature with horns. As someone who had once raised that lizard to a dragon and made it worthy of being his assistant, Mu recognized it immediately, despite how different it looked now from a dragon. With no one else around to cause trouble, Mu and the Dragonling headed back to Li's house. Once they were settled, the Dragonling began explaining everything about Mu's current situation in the God's realm and his own story, that how ended up on Earth with this body. According to him, after his defeat against Lucifer, Lucifer found Mu's godly body and trapped it in an unbreakable, impenetrable barrier that separated time and space. This made it impossible for Mu's soul to return to his body. To ensure no one interfered with his plans, Lucifer took Mu's body to his own domain,